Welcome to the EnVibe Life Conversations podcast with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. By tuning in, you are joining a community that will inspire you to increase balance, wellness, and joy in your life. We will offer expert information and insightful conversations to help us all on our journey to live more in vibe. For more information and articles, remember to also check out our website at envibelife.com. That's EnVibelife.com. We're grateful that you are here.
Hello, welcome to EnVibe Life Conversations with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. We have a confession to make.
Yes, we just finished recording a whole podcast.
An awesome podcast.
Yep, and we did not push record.
And so
here
that's
we are,
my bad. That's Amy Parker's the button pusher of the mix. And so we're starting over. But maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity. And just so you all know, we had about a 30 or 40 minute podcast, and we have a meeting upcoming. So we're going to get it all in about 20 minutes for you now, because that's about the amount of time we have. But what we've been talking about is our reflections from 2021, and more importantly, the lessons we learned in 2021. And I'm going to start with something we said in the middle of the podcast, because I think it was important, and that's how long it seems like it's been since 1 year ago today.
Yes.
That last December, Cheryl and I went to Miraval in Arizona for a few days, just 4 or 5 days, something like that. And during that time, we recorded 2 podcasts. So you can go back and look at them. There are last 2 from 2020, and one was on reflections of 2020, and one was on intention setting for 2021. And that we recorded while we were there. It seems like it has been decades.
Yeah.
Since that time.
A lot has happened since then.
But at the same time, as you say, it feels like 2021 flew by.
It has flown by to me. I feel like, the beginning of 21, we were looking at, okay, it's going to be a new year. It's going to be new you. We're going to open up. Things are going to be great. It's going to be this.
You're talking about your other business.
I'm talking about my other business. Yeah. And, that just... January went quick. February went quick. Oh my gosh, the whole month. And then you're like, it's December.
We had a very busy spring for EnVibe Life.
We had a very busy spring.
We hosted a major event, which was good. And let's talk about EnVibe Life a little. We thought it was going to go in a whole bunch of different directions.
Yes.
And then as we really did a lot of soul searching, and we took a hiatus during the summer, which we needed sort of our own personal reflection. We had been so busy for over a year, both with this company and our other endeavors in life, that we needed some time. And as we came out of that reflection, which we needed. So here's one reflection of 2021. Take that time when you need it.
Yeah.
Was saying, we don't think some of those directions are right for us, at least not at this time.
Correct.
And that was a difficult decision, especially for me. At least one of those directions was extremely exciting for me. Like I really wanted to do it, but also had to accept it's really not the right thing for this
for what we're doing,
company, this partnership right now. And we had to give ourselves permission. That's another lesson from 2021. Give yourself permission to not do something as well as to do something. Right. Because we had done some prep work for that. And, you feel like, oh my goodness, I invested this time and these resources into moving in this direction. It's kind of hard to say, I'm going to leave that behind and not do it.
Yeah, because you feel like it was wasted.
You feel like it's wet, or the opportunity's there, or the opportunity cost you're leaving behind, or whatever. Although, what we talked about then, and it's something I say a lot for myself and our family, an opportunity is not an obligation. So you do want to vet and develop those opportunities, but that doesn't oblige you to follow that path. I know there's this one, and gosh, I'm not going to get any of this right, and the guys who help me with my investments are going to call me like, oh, you butchered what we do. But it's like a 20% rule, that if you kind of go about 20% of things will end up good, or if you're going for 20% of endeavors to be successful, then you're going to have to try 5 for everyone that succeeds, right? And that's okay too. And that's still actually a really good track record. We just heard that most podcasts don't get past episode 7. So even this, I don't know, 70 something, or something. I honestly don't even really know. We ended our first season with close to 60 or 65. So I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure how many we've had now. It's been a lot though.
But yeah, definitely that's been a big change this year. Is, we had the big event, then we had the hiatus, we had all these really great ideas, and then we realized that some of those are not for us, right? And so then we've refocused and got back into, we're just going to put our energy into this podcast. It's what we built EnVibe Life on, and we really love it. And we feel like we have such great opportunities to meet with so many different people out there that are providing EnVibe practices, modalities, whatever their services. And there's so many people out there that are just super interesting to know what they're doing in their lives.
I've learned so much. I haven't had one single podcast I haven't enjoyed, or one person we've met that I come away from all of them thinking
they're great.
That's the best. Oh my goodness, that was the best ever. Every single time I feel like that, which makes me think that what we're putting out there, someone needs and wants to hear, and that's really what motivates us more than anything else. Is if we want to hear it, someone else does too, or it's who needs to hear it today. Hopefully, that person is listening.
So I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned in 2021 was, Amy and I talk about, we're learning so much, we're hearing so much, we spread the news on the things that we're learning in our life, the tools that we have. We're just out here to share those tools. Well, we went through some tragedy in our house. My father-in-law passed away. My mother-in-law came and lived with us. There was some physical decline that we had along the way. And so all of that led to a big struggle for us as a home. It was big changes. And, grief does a lot of that. And so when you're in the depths of all of that, it's really hard to remember all these things that Amy and I talk about. It's hard to remember all the tools. It's real easy to sit on the outside and give them to somebody else.
Which you do all the time. At core, your other business, right?
Yes. I guide people all the time on how to get out of physical pain, how to do this, how to do that with, as you're guiding them through their movement journey. But, and I feel like with EnVibe, we're trying to impart knowledge of the spiritual journey and the mental journey.
And the things that have helped us.
Yeah, the things that have helped us. So to be in the depths of what I was going through, to pull on these tools that we all know was really challenging, right? To be able to pull that on in yourself is really challenging. When sometimes, I'll fess up, when I'm in a great space and I'm just helping somebody else, in the back of my head, and I'm like, how come they didn't think of this? Or how come they're not doing that? Or it's so simple. You just have to do this. Well, it's not that simple.
Right. It's not.
It's not.
Well, and that's also the reason why having a spiritual practice, I think, or living in vibe, as we like to say, mind, body, spirit balance, can help you. I mean, it can uplift you during the great times, but also having those tools to draw
help you
upon
through the dredges
when you're in the difficult times. Okay, so my 2021 has been a little different. Probably one of the most profoundly change-filled years. I just made up a string of words that I've had, but a lot of change in our lives. I don't talk about it much because a lot of it was confidential while it was happening, but I can say now, and I think I mentioned in another podcast, my husband and I sold what was his primary business. And so that's a good change, right? But it's been extremely difficult too, because for me, it had more to do with him than me. And, just not to divulge too much of his story, but he's just very tired. It's been a lot of travel for him and a lot of hours. And so just feeling like he wants to be able to devote more time to himself and his own well-being, as well as devoting more time to home and family that he wants to do. catch his breath, and then see what comes next. And he just really feels the need for that reset in life right now. And that was the big motivation. It wasn't that there was anything wrong or anything like that, although there's some changes on the business landscape that he thought
it was a good time.
His current model wouldn't take him in. And, so someone came and is partnering with them now or has bought him out that has the sort of ideas that take you those next 20 years, right? So good for everyone.
Right.
Good for the new guy, good for my husband, good for the business. Win, 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 right? So all this positive stuff, but this has been the undercurrent of what supported my family.
Yeah.
Since we were so young.
Yeah.
And I even gave up my career so that I could, help support the home and our children during this time. And so, just having that taken away and changed, it wasn't a bad thing, but it's definitely a different thing going forward. Yeah. And that's just scary.
And there's fear in the uncertainty.
There's a lot of fear in the uncertainty and looking into the face, because we're still pretty young, looking into the face of, okay, so he'll catch his breath, we'll catch our breath, and something will be there, but what will it be?
Yeah.
That's scary. And you have to really rely on your faith and rely on everything happens for a reason. And I know that it does. And if he intuitively felt this so strongly for himself, I have to trust that he knows. Who knows? Maybe it was some physical condition that would have happened to him in 2 more years if he hadn't made this change. Maybe it was, who knows what the thing was, but he clearly knew and was listening to his inner voice. And as his partner and spiritual partner, I have to trust his inner voice in that too, which was another big lesson of 2021 for me, that sometimes
trust and support.
I take, I'm usually the more intuitive one and the one saying, but this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm feeling. For me to have to let him take that lead and me take the back seat in it a little bit, that's been an interesting dynamic change for me too. Something that's like, okay, I'm fine taking the back seat, or I've learned over 25 years to take the back seat in this business role, but I hadn't in the spiritual role.
Yeah.
And having to say his instincts or intuition are huge right here. And I've got to practice what I preach. He's telling me the things that I say. You need to go inside and figure these out for yourself. All right, now I have to be the good partner for him.
Right.
And give him the space to let that happen. That is big. And I didn't say that the first time. The first time we did this podcast, we had to re-record. Really maybe this is what was supposed to come up for me.
And I think that's something that I know we have found in spiritual partnerships. And when I say spiritual partnerships, I'm talking not only your spouse, but your spouse might not be your spiritual partner. I'm just saying that you kind of know, and
you may have multiple spiritual partners or soulmates, people in your life. It's not all romantic.
I don't mean it in a romance way. I mean, what I mean in it is I found that the people in my life that I have a spiritual partnership relationship with, the big piece of it is support. You're supporting that other person. You're, and vice versa, you're allowing them to support you.
Oh, that's a big one.
And it's this sort of like, I'm here for you and you're here for me. And there's no, like, you owe me or I owe you in it. It's just, And that's what it sounds like the journey you and John are on is. It was a little fearful in accepting a change that you didn't get pinged with. He did. And you're having to trust him. And then also support in that. And that, I think it's beautiful. I think that support is something, if you really think about your life and think about your friends or spouses and anyone that there has been that sort of person for you, there can be multiple people like that support is a big piece of that relationship.
Well, and because what's coming up to me as you're saying this, and we talked about this a lot on our last podcast that no one will ever hear, that didn't actually record, it's just how important change is in life. And sometimes the change is, very sad. Sometimes the change is very celebratory. Happy, right? But it's still hard to accept, but that's where we learn. No matter where the change is coming from, that's where we learn. And why it's so special when we do have those spiritual partners in our life who help us see that at the times we're going through it. and know us well enough to know what we need to help get through that moment, whether it's just to be there and listen, or whether it's to actually lift us up, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And that's something I have found in my spiritual partnerships, is that the words that usually the other person tells me what I need to hear. Sometimes it's not a comfortable thing, but you know what was said you needed to hear. I found that, in most of mine. Sometimes that's harder to hear from my husband. It's way easier to hear from you and Stacy.
Oh gosh. I don't know. But so when we look on 2021, I think that what I've reflected on, and it's really coming out of everything I just said, one of my biggest lessons is that sometimes we need to create new patterns in life. And when we're trying to bring about change, which, even if you want, the good things, I want a new love interest in my life, or a new job, or a new house. Those are all big changes you're calling in, right?
Yes.
But, they're going to also require some new patterns and new paradigms.
Yeah.
And to me, a lot of times that can be what's really hard to bring in or accept. Just like we've talked about this before, and I know this is something for my husband right now as he figures out how his new role, and he's still got a role in the company for a few years, but is going to look, and he wants to work from home more, things like that. For example, kind of being able to recognize that the way certain patterns look, like, we've been taught by society, by our families, by our ancestors, maybe the way you succeed is by just working a bazillion hours a week.
Right.
And if you want to do a good job with it, at least in his industry, it's, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And, it's easier for me to see in observing him and then I can apply the lesson to myself, which is, again, another part of the spiritual partnership, is he'll reflect to me what I need to see for myself, right?
Yes.
Is having to relearn that, structure or paradigm of, well, maybe there is a different way to do it, and I can still be fantastic at what I'm doing, and I can still be successful, and it can still be rewarding for all parties involved. And it's not necessarily what even hundreds of years leading up to this moment in my family and lineage have taught me, but it's something completely different and new.
I think that's happening on a global scale.
I think that's one of the COVID lessons.
Yeah. And I know we did a podcast recently, and someone had said, one of the benefits of social media is that our kids know so much more at their age than we did, because they're learning it from social media. Where social media sometimes gets poo-pooed on a lot, like, it's creating anxiety and this and this and this. Those sort of things are out there that you hear as well. But it's like, with these major changes, global, structural, spiritual, technology, there's some good with all of that, and we have to embrace it, have some faith.
I think our friend Holly talked about that on the podcast we did with her. Go back and listen to that one. Holly Shamir from season 1. Yeah. Integrating technology.
Yeah.
And that was a really good one. And it's one we've gotten a lot of feedback on too, because she puts a different spin on accepting technology into our lives.
Yeah. Which is, I did not expect that to come out of that conversation at all, knowing Holly on a personal level.
She's a very spiritual,
clean,
and human connection kind of person.
Yeah. So it was interesting. It was a great podcast. But I think those are all great reflections on 21. I look forward to 2022. I think it's going to be an amazing year. It's going to go forward, and we're, set some great intentions for this year. Amy and I are taking the next couple of weeks off, and for the holidays to be with our family. So
on the other side of that break, we won't air a podcast on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, which are the next 2 Fridays upcoming. And this one, which doesn't always happen, we're recording just a couple days before you all are hearing it. We're doing it almost spur of the moment, because we wanted it very close to the end of the year, to come out. On the other side of that, we have a couple guests that I think you're really going to enjoy, that are really going to be speaking to setting intentions, keeping resolutions, finding clarity in life, and all of the things that we think, at least there's some of the things that I'm looking towards for myself in 2021. I have a feeling other people feel the same way. So, hopefully over these couple weeks, if you're looking for some podcasts, again, we have so many stored up in our archives. You can find it on our website, EnVibeLife.com, on Apple, on Google, on Spotify. They're all there. And so plenty to listen to, most of them still applicable on all these topics, setting boundaries, accepting change, embracing those things in your life. But also, we hope that you'll take some time and do some self-reflection. And look at what you have taken out of 2021. Maybe ask yourself, this might be a good journal prompt. I may even put these out on the website, but how does my life look at the end of 2021 different than it was at the end of 2020? And how does it look differently than I thought it would look today?
And what do I want it to look? What do I want it to look like in 2022?
1 year from today.
I think that's important.
Exactly.
Put it out there.
Hopefully, we'll have some tools to help you in those podcasts that you'll see coming out in January as well. But I hope that you'll find that time to reflect. Take a little breather. Like I said, we took the hiatus this summer and it was important. We're recognizing last year we thought, we've got to plow through the holidays and not miss a week. And we realized, no, we don't. It's okay for us to not put anything out there those weeks and take a little time with ourselves and our families. So.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys for listening. We have enjoyed 2021 and we look forward to coming back.
Thank you for being a part of our 2021.
Definitely. And we look forward to 2022 with some great upcoming guests. So check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining our conversation today. For more information or to learn more about EnVibe Life, we hope you'll visit us at www.envibelife.com. You can find links and show notes for this episode on our podcast page. Please like, follow, and leave a review for our podcast. We hope that you will listen again soon.